Right, welcome. Sunday Speedrunner Spotlight episode. I don't even know what number we're on off the top of my head anymore.
In the 30s, I think.
30 something.
Yep.
Can we get the Super 50 coming soon? But got Maximum here today. Hello, welcome.
Yo, yo.
Yo.
Good to talk with you.
Yes, wearing the merch. Love to see it.
Of course.
Got to promote the brand. Very important.
That's right.
It's that YouTube grind set, as they say. So, speedrunning. Good topic, I think. Love that. Love that
Yep.
thing. So, you've been doing it quite a while, actually. Seems like.
Yeah, I mean, my first speed run was actually back in 2014. So
Yeah,
that's
that'll
back
do
when
it.
I was like 10. So
Hmm.
I was playing like New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and I like found you know, the I found a speed run of it, and I was like, maybe I should try this out. And I found like the Excel document. I recorded my splits for that run in an Excel document where it had like, each world, and I think the time came out to like 33 minutes. So that's the first speed run I ever remember doing. I know I did like, flash game stuff casually back in like, the computer lounge just at school. Just timing myself with like, online stopwatch or whatever. But yeah, that was the first time I actually like learned to speed run and tried to do it. And then, the next year I got into like, Minecraft runs in like 2015, just like some really not good speed runs still, but I still had an interest. I definitely like got into it a lot through. I think it was back in 2014. Like Seth Bling was doing. He was doing like Super Mario World stuff, and then the Minecraft speed runs were like kind of getting popular for the first time. That's back when like getting a 15-minute set seed time was like impressive, and now the record's like under a minute. So that definitely like kind of inspired me to like start speedrunning. But yeah, didn't do much in like 2016, and then 2017 is when I like started kind of running flash games seriously, and that's when I like actually got good at it, and it just kind of went on from there.
Yeah, sounds like a good start. So, I don't. I don't know a lot about the Flash game speedrunning scene. It sounds interesting though. Like, there's so many Flash games, and I know it's a little harder nowadays since they like got rid of it, and you have to figure out other means. But
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like even back in 2017, we weren't really, or at least the people who were good at speedrunning flash games weren't running it in their browser unless they had to,
mhm.
because they just have like a standalone player that you can download and just throw the games in because it like runs way better, and you can play it without like needing the internet or going to some website that probably has a million ads on it. So yeah, we've kind of moved on from playing flash games on the web for quite a while, so it didn't really change much at all when it they kind of disabled the flash plugin and everything. The only thing it really hurt was like getting people into the games because they didn't have that like easy way of just playing the game right off the bat. They had to like actually download it. So
Mhm. I see. Well, at least there were easy means for a long time then.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I don't think I ever downloaded a Flash game that way. I always played it in browser.
Yeah, no, it's super easy. They're just like .swf files. Most Flash games are just one file that you can go on like the browser like console log and just like download it that way. And there's also just like tons of archives you can tap into to download games. And pretty much any Flash game on speedrun.com, like you can just go to their like rules or their resources, and there will be a download for the game because unlike ROMs, like these games were like free, so like
Mhm.
there's no rule against like sharing the files. So
Yeah. Are most Flash games since the like destruction or whatever, are most of them preserved pretty well?
yeah, vast majority are. There's a archival project known as it's called Flashpoint. It used to be called Blue Maximus Flashpoint, but I think he like left the project. But yeah, it has like it's got like 100,000 Flash games on there or
Oh
something. It's
my.
pretty crazy. But yeah, it's definitely like a good way to be able to um, play the games pretty easily because you just type in the game name and click it and it's there. And it's able to get around. A lot of these games had like DRM where if you were playing it on a website that wasn't like the original source, it would like lock itself down. So
Hmm.
it's able to like essentially spoof the website that is being played on, like when it feeds to Flash Player when it requests like what website am I being played on, and that just gets around that URL check for most games. So yeah, it works great. I'm glad it exists.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I'm a big advocate for preservation of stuff, so
Same,
yeah, to
definitely.
see that all preserved very well and what seems like a very easy way to access, that's it's quite nice because
Hmm.
there's a lot of work done in that era. There'd be a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
stuff lost to time.
There's a ton of games that a lot of them like ended up becoming like full on like paid games on other platforms. Like Super Meat Boy is probably the best example. Where like there's a Flash game that they made originally called Meat Boy, and then Super Meat Boy was like when they uh I guess moved it over to all the other platforms, and it ended up being like super successful as like a commercial game.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, Flash was a great way for developers to get a start, get their work out there for free, easily accessible, and then move on to better things from that. So, very
yeah,
important
there's
part of
really
history.
yeah, there's really like nothing else like it, honestly, nowadays. Like just how easy it was to like have something like built in, like a way you could create all the assets in, the game creator in Adobe Flash, and then the coding as well, just everything being all there bundled together, something that anyone can get into and like, put the game on the internet and share it with people. Like that's just kind of been lost in I guess like mobile games specifically have way more hurdles you have to jump through to like actually like develop them and get them out there. With you got to download all this different stuff. If you're trying to do Apple and Android, you got to go through a bunch of hoops, and then to put it on the actual app store, you got to pay for like a developer account and get your app approved and all of that. It's just infinitely easier to, make a Flash game and throw it on a website and all of that. So,
Yeah, bit unfortunate nowadays,
yeah.
but at least we have that history. And can people like still develop for it, even with it being gone?
Yeah, the tools still like exist. Like you can download old versions of Flash, and there's still some functionality in like newer versions. It's called like Adobe Animate now.
Yeah.
So you can use it, but most people don't. But I think there is like there's a game called Super Fancy Pants Adventure that I think was released in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. I'll check on that. Super Fancy Pants Adventure. But yeah, that game, yeah, it was 2017. So that game was like, kind of the most recent release in the Fancy Pants series, which is like a very popular series of Flash games. And that was actually like released on Steam to a pretty, decent amount of success. And that game, like it just feels like a normal game, like when you're playing it, but it is like under the hood, it is actually a Flash game
Mm.
that's running through like something called Adobe Air, which like allows it to just run as like an executable, like a normal game. So that's like probably one of the most recent games, like higher profile that was like developed on Flash and released commercially.
Hmm.
And I know there's like the Fancy Pants Classic Pack that it's like kind of remasters of all the older games to make them like widescreen and all of that and just put them all in one bundle. So that's all Flash, and that's going to be releasing either like this year or next. So it's still being used to some degree, just not by many, of
Hmm.
course, just because of it is quite an outdated technology. I mean, it
Yeah.
was never very secure. It was never optimized like at all. Like I don't think it uses the GPU at all, from what I understand. So
Yeah. I mean, technically it was never even meant to make games, right? It was like a
yeah,
creation tool.
the initial like versions of Flash like games were not in on the radar, but after like Action Script 1 released, I think that was still back when it was owned by like Macromedia. That's when like games started becoming like more possible, and then they became Action Script 2 is kind of when it started hitting its stride, and then Action Script 3 made it a lot more like other coding languages, which I guess made it more or less accessible in different ways. There's like a huge difference between how those two, like, even though they're both called ActionScript, it's like a completely different programming language. So
Hmm.
I think some developers decided to like stick with ActionScript too, even though it was like way out of date, just because they liked it more. So
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, it's cool seeing like this thing that was obviously commercially meant to be like a animation tool, and
hmm
with all of this stuff, you could actually just make games that were good on it and j- jumpstart your career that way or something in game
yeah,
development. So
yeah, quite a few did, quite a few did.
yeah, very important piece of history, I think.
hmm
So
Yeah,
it's
that's
nice to
something
see.
I definitely like to like tie in with my videos. Is like, yeah, I make videos about like, history of Flash game speedrunning, but like in pretty much all of my videos, I'm also covering like some history of like the game itself, which like ties into like the history of Flash as well. Just like, with World's Hardest Game, talking about how the guy who made it was like 16 when he developed the game, like a game that was played by like hundreds of millions of people at some point. Just like kind of crazy that that's essentially unheard of.
Hmm.
Someone able to do that at such a young age, just because of the power that Flash had in that era. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, the reach those games had just because the ease of accessibility is wild looking back
hmm
compared to
hmm
modern day. Like, wow, games can have 9-digit player counts. That's a lot
Yeah.
of digits. But yeah, I just remember playing a ton of Flash games like in elementary school, in the computer
Yep.
lab. So
Yep.
nostalgic, I guess. But
Yeah. No, I would get all my work done like days or weeks early. I mean, I did a lot of reading back then as well. I don't really read much now, sadly, but I would read and I would play, Flash games like that. That was like the main two things I did at school
yeah.
once I got my work done. So big motivators right there.
Flash was a huge motivator in many
Yep.
ways, I guess.
Yep.
But yeah, so back into speedrunning, so you started with Flash games after like getting back into it?
Yeah, I mean, like Flash games is when I started taking it more seriously for sure. The first Flash game I really speedrun was Run 2. So that was a
Yeah.
game that I'd played like a ton, back in the day, and I just like thought of like, maybe I'll have a good time speedrunning it, and I definitely did. I was able to change that game a lot, really bring it from being not optimized at all, and like the leaderboard being not it had like four categories when it really should have had a lot more, because there's tons of different speed options and character options and all of that. So ended up like restructuring the leaderboard to, I think it has 38 categories now, if you like
Wow.
have all the combinations of subcategories, because there's like two level sets. You can either any percent or 100% them, and then you can play with like the normal character, um, the normal character with double jumps, or the other character with double jumps. Like it's like I guess a cheat code that gets unlocked when you 100% the game. So
Hmm.
added those in, and then there's like normal, fast, and intense speeds. So yeah, I was able to like transform that game a ton, and kind of got into like my first rivalry with DHA, who probably like in contention for like being the best Flash game speedrunner of all time. Just the amount of games that he's played and been dominant in is like crazy, to say the least. But yeah, it was cool like having that rivalry, way back in the day, with him like pushing skater fast as it was called to under 2 minutes and all of that. So yeah, I had a great time with that game and moved into, I think there's like another game my friend showed me called Toxic 2. Got into that, and was able to find like a ton of glitches and stuff. That was like my first experience really like I had found some strats in like run two to reduce rotations because that's like the main way you're able to save time, is rotating less because each rotation loses time. So I was able to find ways to like reduce rotations and save time that way. But I guess Toxic 2 was the first time I was able to like find like brand new glitches that no one had found before and all of that, and being able to apply that to like completely like shred the record for that game, taking it from like 15 minutes when I came to under 9 minutes by the
Hmm.
time I was like done for the first time. So yeah, really really good memories with that game for sure. And yeah, that was like the main two games I ran in 2017, and then in 2018, that's kind of when I found Red Ball because I saw someone playing it in class and I'd like never really played the game before. So I like tried it out and realized like how good of a speed game it could possibly be. Like just the movement was like you just had a ton of freedom of movement and everything. So I like tried playing the game, liked it, looked up the speed run for it, and the record was really, really good. It was, I believe, a 344 by Rare EG, and I was like seeing some stuff going on that was crazy. But then I realized that the record was actually like 335, and it just wasn't verified. So I was like, oh, that became my like goal time to beat, and eventually I was able to do it. And that was like the first time I'd really like had to put in a ton of work to get like an initial world record in a game. So that was great. And eventually ran like all the other games in the Red Ball series, and all of them were just like they had their unique quirks to them that just made them great speed games. Red Ball 2 had like this pause jumping glitch where you could get like 3 times the height of a normal jump and like completely skip like almost all of the puzzles in the game. Similar thing in Red Ball 3, and then the three Red Ball 4 volumes had double jumping, which just allow you to like fly through the game and skip all these puzzles. And it was crazy how there were 6 Flash games in the series, and like I enjoyed running like every single one of them. And it was awesome to like kind of help lay the foundation for that. And um, eventually, that turned into um, making videos about it in 2020, and eventually that took off in 2021, and that's how I was able to make a whole YouTube, I guess, career out of making videos about Flash game speedrunning, which has just been awesome. So
Yeah, you are quite successful in the YouTube side of things, I'd say. Like I will say I checked out the hardest game one like a while ago. I remember
hmm
seeing that. And I thought the editing was like really unique, really good. Like the transitions between certain things was
yeah,
pretty
nice.
cool.
hmm
So I
yeah,
could
I
definitely see
definitely
the
enjoyed it.
appeal. Plus they're usually really long because there's a lot of history to go over with that
Yeah, I
kind of
mean
thing.
there is, and I try to go through like everything, like give people the credit that they deserve, and like really dig into like how everything came to be, because like being like really tuned in to like you know all of these communities has made it like really, it makes making the videos, I guess, like um more complete because I'm able to like I know so many things I'm able to put in, and I'm not having to figure out like everything I'm talking about for the first time usually. So I think that definitely gives me like an advantage when it comes to putting my videos together. So I
Hmm. Yeah. So how many videos have you done now?
think I've done 26.
Wow,
So
that is
yeah,
quite a bit.
that's over it's like 3.5 years now. So, you
Hmm.
know, and it's just like the whole time, like I haven't, done it as like a job. I mean, it's still a hobby, making the videos because I'm still like a full-time student and I have like, lots of other responsibilities as well. But it is nice to just have that creative outlet where I'm able to just, when I have the motivation, just put together like a huge project and be able to like, have that big, statement for the community that it's a part of and just shine a light on like a lot of the cool stuff that these people are doing in these games. Because I mean, nowadays, like I feel like most flash game speedrunning stuff is pretty well respected, but back in the day, like people just like didn't understand it at all. Like everyone just thought it was like a big joke. Um, and is definitely the case with like quite a few games. Like people just don't take it seriously, which is fine. But it is not true that like every flash game is that way. I mean, there are some flash games where the records are they're just insanely optimized. Like Red Ball probably being the best example, for sure. Just like how crazy that record's gotten with just like yeah, you just need like 20-30 frame perfect inputs to if you're wanting to get a time in this range and all of that. It's like I never would have expected it to get to that point, but it's been like pretty crazy that I've essentially helped get it along there.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. So YouTube, in the YouTube video sense, since we've been talking about it, you have any like highlights from what you've made so far?
yeah, so I'd say like my first like really big project was Red Ball World Record progression. I mean, it took me quite a while to make that video, several months, and it was like a really like important thing for the community, just like pulling together this like really awesome story that had just kind of like unfolded through how the game went from uh just like a small group of people taking this game to something that was like way more optimized than we could have ever imagined. And yeah, it ended up like coming together really well. And it did like well by my standards. Like, oh, it's getting like a few thousand views in like a month or two. Like that's like a few thousand people watching this, or like at least a decent chunk of this like hour-long video about this flash game. It's like that was like really cool to me. And in January of like 2021, I hadn't uploaded anything since that video, but for whatever reason, like 2 months later, that video and my video about sub 20 train, which was like this strategy that got found, that was essentially like the holy grail of of the game. It was like our carpet list essentially. And just like talking about the history of how that came to be. That video started getting like quite a few views as well, and um, I didn't really know why, but like the next day it was like even more, and it just kept going and going to the point where like that sub 20 train video went from I think 3,000 views to over 1 million in
Jesus.
like 2-3 weeks. It was
What?
like
Oh my
I
God.
I have no idea like how it happened or why, but yeah, eventually like I guess YouTube just figured out like, hey, people are watching this video. Let's show it to more people. And that kick started pretty much everything. Like I started taking YouTube more seriously. I made I didn't really know like what videos I was even gonna make beyond Red Ball World Record progression. Like if it hadn't taken off, it might have not been much more than just that. The 5 videos I'd made when I had released that. But after that, I made like, an Iceberg Explained. I started dabbling into other games outside the Red Ball series, some like This Is the Only Level and, the Run series and stuff. And because of all the attention that like the Red Ball series was getting, like tons of people were flocking into the community, and we had like all these events that we were doing, and the record just like kept going down because of like new stuff people were finding, which I definitely never expected like anything new to be found in the game. I was like, oh, like we've toiled over this for quite a while. Like I just don't really see how, frame perfect setups would even be a thing. But like someone made a task hack to be able to task the game, and then we just like all this like crazy stuff got found after that, and the record just kept going down and down. And it's to the point where like my most recent video about like the Red Ball record progression left off when like the first sub 3 happened, and now record is 235 by Miniland. So
Mhm.
there might be as much to talk about. Like I think I have like around 2 hours of video specifically about the record progression of Red Ball. Just that one like 2-3 minute long speed game. And with the stuff that happened between then and now, like there's almost as much to talk about. It's like kind of insane. What I've
Well,
kind of gotten myself into. But yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's a lot of that's a lot to talk about just one thing, and then you think of just how many games there are and stuff. You can never like run out
Yeah.
of content
Yeah, no,
in
I
the
definitely
speed.
have like a ton of ideas that I can make. And I definitely remember back in the day, it's like, am I gonna like run out of content to make? Like I'm kind of worried about that. But I guess with the pace of like, making less videos as they've become longer and I've gotten busier and all of that. And I've like I've kind of realized like, that the history is being written faster than I'm able to cover it for sure. Like there's a lot of Flash games out there with really cool speedrun histories, and I'm only like one guy that's I mean, I'm definitely the main person making videos about like Flash game speedrunning. Like there's a few others that have made some pretty like in-depth videos from time to time, but no one's like had this streak of just like making videos consistently about it. So I think it would definitely be nice to have like at least someone else like kind of doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, it is kind of nice to be like I'm like essentially the only like person in this like niche of like Flash game speedrunning that's like, you know having somewhat consistent uploads. And I think that is part of like the draw of my channel for sure. It's like something that you can't really get anywhere else. So
Mhm. Yeah, I'm impressed what the algorithm did for that video.
yeah,
I've never
yeah,
heard such a huge surge in viewership, I
yeah.
guess.
It's kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, it is definitely interesting. I guess a lot of it's nostalgia. I mean, that's all of speedrunning a lot of the time is like, oh, here's a game I remember playing as a kid a bunch, seeing it beaten in this way.
Yeah, yeah.
And so many people in this era are going to be nostalgic for Flash. So, I guess it works out pretty
Absolutely.
well that way.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's so many games that can be covered in that
Yep.
in that niche
There's about
alone.
100,000 of them,
Yep.
so there's not that
Pick your
many
poison.
on speedrunner.com, but there's definitely quite a lot.
Oh
So
yeah. So, um guess we can go back to like what you were running because you have a like big library, I think. So,
oh yeah, for sure. Like you can scroll on my speedrunner.com profile for quite a while. I think I have 851 runs on speedrunner.com, so
Jesus. All right.
decent bit for sure.
Just a couple, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah. What are some highlights from your speedrun library?
Definitely like my 255 in Red Ball was probably one of my biggest highlights. So that happened like a few days after I released the video about like the sub 3 in Red Ball, which was a 257. And when I released that, or when I finished the video, my PB was it was like a 3-1x. Like I wasn't even close to like the top of the leaderboard. but I decided to like start like running the game again just to like get a 30x and then kind of be done with it. And I like kind of fluked a 306 after I hit sub 20 train, which I hadn't even tried in 3 months. So the odds that I hit that strat like first try, it had to be like 1%. It was ridiculous that I hit that first try in a run. That was just like off a whim. So that got me to like a 306. I'm like kind of like, I'm like within 10 seconds of record, like in 6 seconds of sub three. Like I could definitely get, a sub three at some point potentially. But then like right then, someone discovered a frame based setup for sub 20 train that was like 2 frame perfect inputs and a 2 frame left tap. And it
Hmm.
just like it made the strategy like so much more consistent. It was still like really hard because the visual cues were really not distinct. But I was like, if I'm able to hit this, like I can definitely get a sub three, and then I'll probably be done. And on my second run that got to the train level on like sub three pace, I hit. It was also like by far my best pace ever. Um, I hit the strategy and like I finished the last level perfectly and I got a 255 and I beat the record by 2 seconds, and it was just like I like didn't even think that was possible, and it like happened while I was streaming with like 100 people watching, and it was just insane to like experience that. It took me a while to like actually believe that it had happened. So that's still my PB in the category. I definitely want to improve it at some point, but um, yeah, it's just crazy thinking back still that happened like 2 days after I had released this video about the 257, like a run that I thought I would never even get close to. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Makes a whole video and then beats it. You're the one to
Hmm.
outdate your own content.
Exactly. And I was like, because it had happened so soon to that video and the video was doing pretty well, I was able to like, make a community post. Like, I know this is hard to believe, but I just got the record, and it like funneled a ton of people to, my second channel where I upload my speed runs and stuff. So that run is actually at like 99,000 views right now, which is kind of crazy.
Damn,
Like,
nice.
so it's that, and then right behind it is my like the first sub three in Red Ball 4 Volume 1, which was another definitely big highlight in my like speedrunning career, where record was around it was like a 329 by me, and um there's a strategy that was found in the boss level where you could like skip a phase of the fight by doing this like pretty hard trick where you like roll the boss to the other side of the screen. And we like realized like if we're able to hit this on really good pace, like sub three is possible. And that like that was crazy to like realize. It's just like all of a sudden like this milestone that we're like, yeah, there's literally no way this is ever happening. Just like suddenly became viable, and there was like a whole race for it, and I ended up like getting the first sub three, and that was just crazy. Once again, like breaking a barrier that I never thought I'd be able to. So definitely a huge highlight for sure.
Yeah. These games are
So
back then, were they like really popular though? Like I know they are a
when
lot
I
more
when I
today,
got
but
the 255 in Red Ball, the game was definitely like getting a ton of attention
yeah.
because of like the videos doing well, and there was just a lot of people running the game. So that's definitely like when the leaderboard was a lot more full. I mean, the game has like 1,150 players now, which is still
Jesus.
crazy, and 12 levels has 973 of those. So
Wow.
yeah, it's definitely cool like how many people run the game now, because when I released like Red Ball World Record Progression, I think it was like top 15 or top 10 or something. I can actually go back and look. Uh, thank you, speedrun.com, for the date feature.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, so back when I released that video, I selected the wrong year. It's 2020. of November. There we go. It just reset the year.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was way less people on the leaderboard, and since then it's gotten like way bigger. So, yeah, here we go. Yeah, so top 33 had a sub 4 in the game when I made that video, and now I think I have to go to like yeah, not page 3, not page 4, not page 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there we go. Page 5. Yeah, top 489 have sub 4. So
There it
it's
is.
like yeah, half the leaderboard now has sub 4. So,
Speedrunning in a
yeah.
nutshell right there.
Yep. Definitely pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd say another highlight was definitely recently with I guess running Super Mario Bros. Being able to
Oh, that
like
game.
finally
The
yeah,
best
yeah,
Flash game.
I don't
Hmm.
know I don't know if you know about this game, but like
Mm-mm.
Nintendo released it back in like 1985, I'm pretty sure. Uh,
Okay.
it has this like category called any percent where like people try to get sub 5. That's like the milestone.
Got it. Got it.
But yeah, anyways, yeah, I going to pace and everything. I was like playing the game, uh, a decent bit, and I was like, yeah, I definitely want to get sub 5. So I got back and I found a CRT on Facebook Marketplace for free, and it was
Hell
flat
yeah.
screen and 20 inches, which is like exactly what I wanted. So
I have a 27
got
inch flat
that.
screen.
I don't 27 inches.
Bit
That's
large.
when it gets a little hard to transport.
Oh yeah, it's like well over 100 pounds. So
Yeah, no,
it sits on
I
my
like
desk and I don't touch
carrying
it.
it. Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, I picked that up. And then I have like a Mister, which is it's like hardware emulator for tons of different consoles. So you're you're using like the analog out on that. First of all, really good quality because it's like RGB. So the game looked really good on the CRT, which was nice. And I started like taking practicing more seriously, and I got first sub 5 on July 11th. And I was like, initially, I was like, okay, I'm going to get sub 5 and be done. But I was like, nah, I definitely got to get 458. I have the strategies to be able to do it. This had some like dumb mistakes. Like, I'll try to put a 458 together. And then I was able to do that 2 days later. And then I was like, yeah, people were saying like I thought bullet bill glitch was like really hard,
Hmm,
but
not
like
really.
Nifsky and other people were telling me that it was like easier than flagpole glitch. I was like,
Oh well,
oh.
yeah. It's
So I
one
like
frame perfect jump and win a coin toss. That's all. That's all it is.
yeah. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll try learning bullet bill glitch. And they ended up teaching me flagpole glitch as well, which I was able to get within like an hour of trying to learn, which I was not expecting at
Oh
all.
okay.
I was I was like, oh, this isn't as like impossible as I thought it was. That's pretty interesting. So like I was eventually able to get like pretty good at bullet bill glitch. So I started doing runs, and then I had a run and I got it, and I was like freaking out. I was like, oh man, 8-3's free. Like I just gotta get through 8-4. I've practiced this a million times. I got this. And then I messed up turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
But
As everyone
so
does.
that was unfortunate. But I was able to get it on the next go. Was it the next? I forgot it was my second or third run to 8-4. I got it, but I got it either second or third try by like with no frames to spare. So
Mm-hmm. Dot
get that
99, the classic.
457.993. Yeah, so that was sick being able to do that. That was on July 16th, so I was able to like improve from 459 to 457 like really quick, which was cool. But yeah, the funny thing about that run is that I like messed up underground and 1-1. So I had to do, I knew I had to do flag bolt glitch if I wanted to save the frame rule, and I got it.
Oh.
So So
Okay.
my 457.993 has flagpole glitch and bullet bill glitch and 2-frame wall jump room, which is not. I highly doubt anyone else has that combination. Maybe they do, but it's pretty funny.
So it sounds
So
like you
yeah, I
got
definitely
suckered into it.
it happens. It
It
happens.
does. And it's the kind of
Definitely don't
game
mind.
where well, not everyone, but most people, you finally get sub 5, and it's like, well, I can do better. Oh, I can do better.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do
Oh,
it
I can do a
better.
little bit
And then
better than
suddenly you
that.
have a 455, and it's like, oh, help.
Yeah, I don't know if I can ever go to that point just with like how many times I'd have to play 1-1.
Yeah, I get
But
that.
I'm sure every person who runs the game has felt that the sting of like just playing 1-1 over and over again. That's why Nifsky and like I assume you do too, of just like practicing the game way more than you do runs, because it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
For that category, yeah.
yes,
Definitely.
for any percent, yes,
That's why I
kind of
haven't
have to
touched it
do
in a
that.
couple years. I just need a break, man. Ugh.
Yeah, no,
Too much
I
World 1.
definitely understand for sure.
Although at my level at this point, I'd need everything but lightning. So it's like ultra mega
Yeah,
pain.
yeah, all the easy tricks, and then there's lightning, was the only
All
hard.
the
I'm just
easy tricks.
kidding.
Yes,
Yeah, no,
454
they're
is all
all
the
hard.
easy tricks. Yeah.
Well, that according to someone, that might be the case. I'm just kidding.
Mm. I don't even think they'd say that.
Nah, they wouldn't. They wouldn't.
It's quite the game to exist at the level it's at.
Yeah. So I don't know. I might come back to Super Mario Bros. For like a decent warpless time. I started like learning it, but I didn't have time to
Now,
do a run.
warpless is
But
the better category.
yeah, that's what I've heard from pretty
From
much
everyone
everyone,
with
is
a
that,
brain, yeah.
and I've like practicing is like, wow, this is like super fun, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's fun
Exactly.
playing the game like this. So yeah, we'll get around to it at some point, you know. But yeah, I'm happy with what I was able to do with that game in quite a short amount of time. So
Yeah, it sounds like it wasn't much time at all.
yeah, I mean, I definitely played the game a decent bit beforehand. Like I got when I went to Eyeball's house, who who people watching don't know, he's like a Super Mario Bros. Runner and a Tetris player. But we did like a co-op run, and I had like a 517 with Fire Mario as like the second leg. So that was like technically my PB, but because it was with Luigi, it like didn't count, you know.
Yeah.
So I like did not have a PB in the game until I got like, I think I got one run before sub 5 that like completed. Can't remember though. I think that's the case.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was a 504, but it was
Yeah.
on the same day I got my sub 5.
Oh, okay. So just obsolete. Doesn't even matter.
Yeah, yeah, I still submitted it just for I like submitting obsolete PBs just for
Mm.
completion's sake.
Yeah, me too.
So
I have a whole
yeah,
spreadsheet of every PB and the progression of everything. So,
nice.
although what sucks is I used to not be like that, so I have lost a few to time, especially if I like PB twice the same day. I just,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
well, that one's lost to time because Twitch doesn't save shit very well.
yeah. Twitch is not known for their, you know, stance on like
Reliability.
preserving video and all of
Hmm.
that.
That's why I've taken all of my Twitch highlights and I've turned them into unlisted YouTube videos just in case. Because I have lost one warpless
Yeah,
PB that is highlighted, but if you click on it, it like just doesn't load. It says like network connection error. I don't know, whatever glitch that is. So it's just lost now.
yeah. That's about par for the course on Twitch. So,
So yeah, I'm
but
glad I preserved everything else now, so I don't have to worry about it. Just in case, because
yep.
I like the history of PB stuff. Your personal progression, that's always been interesting to me personally, so
Yeah, yeah,
got
for
it all
sure.
cataloged.
And speaking of a game that I have like an absolute boatload of obsolete runs in, would be like Toxic 2, which I was talking about earlier. How I like, you know, me and like essentially one other guy, you know, took the game down from 15 minutes to under 9 minutes. So there was like the leaderboard only had 4 runners on it, but if you clicked like the obsolete button, you just see like, you know, 50 more runs appear, which
Yeah.
is pretty funny. So it was like an optimized game that like only the two of us had actually played seriously. So that was definitely pretty funny. But yeah, I was eventually able to make a video about that game, and in that I like kind of put like bounties and stuff on like beating the record in that game. And of course, some new stuff did get discovered. Not as much as you'd think, though. Like there was only like a handful of things that the two of us hadn't already found. So that was pretty reassuring that we had like actually done our due diligence for the most part.
Hmm.
But you know, the essentially the bounty was that like you had to beat the record, but like I would be able to improve it. So you had to like
Hmm.
beat whatever like whoever beat like my record or like the record that I had first would you know, get the bounty. And I was able to like push it down from like an 8 before I made the video, I think I pushed the record down to an 838 just because I was like, oh, I can do better now because I'm like better at video games. So
Hmm.
I did that, and then new stuff gets found. I pushed it down to like an 819, which was like about as good as the 838 considering the new stuff that had been found. But it did eventually get beaten, and I decided to like come back over the summer and like try to improve it. And I was able to push it down to like an 807, which that run is definitely the most optimized record the game has had. So I like popped off quite a bit after getting that.
Fair
So,
enough.
but yeah, I definitely want to get like sub 8 in that game at some point. But I'm kind of waiting for like the guy who's in second place, who's named Verdict, to like kind of come back so we can compete for it. Because I don't think I could like self motivate myself to just like grind that game to break that barrier, which would be like extremely difficult to break. So we'll see if that ends up happening. I hope it does. But yeah, on that topic, like Verdict, I'd say is like probably the other runner that would be considered to be like one of the best Flash game speedrunners of all time. Just because he's played, I don't know if you've ever heard of Super Mario 63.
Hmm. I played that.
So yeah, he's like first place in that game by a mile.
Mm.
And he's like got super good times in like quite a few other games as well. So and unlike me, like I've kind of like fallen off with how much like time I've been able to put into speedrunning stuff. I definitely like peaked in 2021 with like what I was accomplishing and all of that. But you know, he's like still been, you know, grinding, like improving records and all of that. And yeah, I think he's first place by 9 seconds in that game, which is quite a bit.
Mm.
So
Yeah. How long is like the 80% of that game?
it's 6 minutes and 18 seconds.
Oh. Hmm. Does
Mhm.
it have its own like 0 star?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
There's ways to skip like tons of the game. So I forgot. I think it's like shines in that game instead of stars. But
Oh yeah, that's right.
I
You
think you
have flood.
collect one shine. I'm pretty sure. So
One shine.
yep.
Yeah. You had flood and it was 2D. Yeah.
Yes, you
I
did.
remember it. I remember it a
It was
little
like a
bit.
mashup of SM64 and Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy,
But 2D.
but 2D. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. God. Bringing up old memories. Hmm.
Hmm.
But yeah. I need to follow the Flash speedrunning scene more. Find games I remember. I don't think I played a ton, but what I'd do is I'd always just like search, I don't know, Mario game as a kid because I wanted to play Mario games and then just whatever pops up. So they're good.
Yeah, I definitely did some of the same stuff because I remember playing that game back in the day as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big one. That and of course Mario Flash, the original Mario Maker. Just call it
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
is.
Yeah, that game has gotten like a really good record now as
Mm,
well, I'm pretty sure. It's got like this like zip glitch where you can like clip into a block and it just like sends you flying. So
nice.
yeah.
I just remember I just remember creating levels and then like, if you do it in Mario Maker, I think Mario Maker 2 is only like a 9-digit code or whatever, but this one is like hundreds of thousands of digit code and you have to copy it to a
Yeah, it's
clipboard.
like the like XML or whatever. That's
Mhm.
just like it's like the code for the entire level and you have to share that
Mhm.
because there's no servers, so
Yeah.
the code was the level data
Mhm. Good times. But yeah.
for sure.
That's mainly what I did. So the greater Flash community, I'm a little not as I don't know as much about, I guess. So it's nice to learn. Like I never played Red Ball, and apparently that's super popular.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely like the biggest like flash game series for speedrunning.
Mm-hmm.
Um then the two most like popular games out of the series are definitely Red Ball 1 and Red Ball 4 Volume 1.
Those are the fastest ones too, right?
They are, yeah. There's a whole thing where it's like the which game was faster, like kept like switching back and forth. And then it got to the point where we thought for sure that Red Ball was gonna be faster than Red Ball 4 Volume 1 for like forever. Because I think it was before the boss roll was found. And then we found boss roll, and then all of a sudden like Red Bull 4 Volume 1's like way faster, and then Red Ball bopped it again at some point once strategies were found that like pushed it below the 3 minute mark. And then Red Ball 4 Volume 1, we got like the task hack, and then people kind of realized because you can like carry speed between levels in that game, which is
Mm.
like kind of like the main appeal. Like if you build up speed, you can carry it for like the entire game.
Hmm.
So like theoretically, right?
Yeah.
So people kind of realize like, oh, if we make like a task string where you just have to press the up button like frame perfectly 40 times, like you could get a sub 2 in this game.
Hmm.
And eventually someone did it. So that was Incredi who managed to pull that off. So he has a 156 in that game, and second place is at 228. So
What the fuck?
it's like it is unlike anything else like on speedrun.com. Like I've never seen anything like it. It's pretty funny.
You just w- is it literally what you said, like 40 frame perfect up inputs and that's it?
It's also the boss. You have to do the boss roll. And
Interesting.
a lot of the up inputs need to be like perfect one framers because that's how double jumping works. It's a one frame up press on flat ground and then another input within 8 frames.
Mm.
But like with this like string that you have to replicate, a lot of the the frame that you do the second jump on matters every single time. So
Hmm.
but yeah, so
Wow.
like top 1 is sub 2, and then the top 14 is sub 3. So like 14th place is 259. So,
So that's
it's
using
like
like original strategies, and then there's just this
yeah, for the
one
most part, yeah, that's like before
bullshit
we had
string or
TASAC,
whatever.
and then it's just like just literally perfecting the game.
That's very fascinating. Yeah, I've never heard
Yeah, it's
anything
it's
quite like
it,
that.
it, it it's crazy for sure.
The
Because I mean,
fact
the
that you
leaderboard
can.
is like 335 runs for any percent, so it's like it's definitely like well
Mhm.
run. It's not like it's just big. First place is first place by a mile because like no one else really like plays the game. Like there are a lot of people who play this game quite seriously, and he's just the only one that's like taking it to the furthest extremes. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I can't imagine hitting that many frame perfects. Actually, it's weird coming out of my mouth because I do have that one glitchless 8.4, my glitchless PB that does like 25 of them. So
Yeah, true.
who am I to say? But that just does seem like a ton.
Yeah.
stuff to do.
Yeah, it's a lot. It took him, I think, like attempting that string took him like 68 days of attempts.
Oh God. Okay. I'll have to look this up afterwards.
Yeah, this run is like it's fascinating to
I'll have
watch.
to watch like a regular run and then the
Yeah,
record run.
watch the first like sub 3 or the 2 or the 329 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty similar runs cuz one's basically the other run with that's slightly more optimal and has the boss roll. So like
Mm,
watch that and then watch the sub 2 and it's like
mm-hmm.
just kind of mind-blowing.
Okay. So the 3 minute, then the first sub two, and then the or three, and then the first sub two. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. I'll put that in my planner for today. I'm very curious what that looks like now. So
Yeah, nice.
because yeah, I don't know the other games of the series. I did see Red Ball 1 just because it happens that a lot of Mario 1 runners run it for whatever reason
Yeah,
that
yeah, no,
is.
that was definitely an interesting like thing that happened. Just like the reason like I'm like quite close with like a lot of the SMB1 runners is because I knew Lakuki back in it was like 2017. I was like kind of like doing geometry dash speed runs, not very seriously. It's not as dumb as it sounds, but it is because there's like stuff you can do to save time aside from just like menuing, but I was never like taking it very seriously, but I like was able to like meet him through that, and then later on it happened with the whole like tied record and people thinking that he cheated and all of that, and was able to like reconnect,
Hmm.
and yeah, eventually that just got it to where like the Red Ball and Super Mario Bros communities were just like close for this like random reason, which is
Hmm.
pretty funny. I know there's like a lot like during the whole like rise of Red Ball back in 2021. There are a lot of like SMB1 runners that went and ran the game. Like I know Alden did. Let's see, yeah, Steak 73, and then yeah, Nifsky and Minilands, and a few others. Like they ran the game and got pretty good at it. There weren't really many Red Ball runners that went and ran Super Mario Bros. Unfortunately, other than me eventually.
Hmm.
But it is what it is.
I
But
suppose.
yeah, that like the Nifsky and Maryland specifically just like kept keeping up with the game, keeping up with the new like strats that were found, where he's like, oh, if you do these 7 frame perfect inputs, you can just absolutely blaze through this level, and
Hmm.
just learning that stuff, and then eventually that being like brought into actual runs, and um, yeah, I mean then eventually Mainland and Nifsky became like first and second place in Red Ball while they were first and second place in Super Mario Bros. Which is like pretty awesome that that was the case. But the order was flipped because Miniland is in first in Red Ball and Nifsky's in second, whereas Nifsky was in first and Miniland was in second in Super Mario Bros. So
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, they definitely came in with like their mindset of like, I'm gonna spend like 95+% of my time playing this game, just practicing stuff. Cause this game has really, really good practice tools. Like we have something we call like frame offset, which is similar to scenarios on the Pelson ROM for Super Mario Bros. Where you like execute the strat and it tells you like what you did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like like frame wise, like you hit it a frame early or frame late or all of that. But with offset, it doesn't like freeze you once you mess up. It like has a display showing each frame perfect input and how many frames off it was.
Mm.
And that, because there's some strategies that have like, a frame of lenience on one of the inputs and stuff like that. So it's a really, really good tool for like you really honing down these really difficult tricks to build some level of consistency with them. So yeah, they just spent like 95+% of their time with the game, just practicing these strategies, and that ended up being like extremely successful. Obviously, they were able to get super good times and like really low amount of attempts. So, you know, in it with a game that has zero RNG, like I feel like any especially any short game that has that's highly optimized and has zero RNG at play, like I don't see why you wouldn't spend like the vast majority of your time practicing. Like it's just the most efficient
Hmm.
way to play the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true with any speed game like that,
Mm-hmm.
which sucks because it can get really boring at times and you just but
Yeah,
it's so like mandatory,
it
especially at games
is.
like
It
that
is.
require literal perfection.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah. So I don't know if it's for me. I already have Mario 1 to kill me. I don't need it.
Yeah.
But I see the correlation between the two. So
Yeah. It's
I
like
understand.
they're very different games functionally. Like, you know,
Mhm.
Red Ball's like a physics sandbox, you know, like they're it's obviously not like, you know, 8-bit. It's you know, vector-based flash game, but that runs at 31 FPS for whatever reason.
Interesting.
But instead of, you know, like I mean, I guess Super Mario Bros. Runs at a funky frame rate as well, you know, with
Kinda, but
$60.1,
that's
but
just the
you know,
NES and SNES frame
it's
rates.
basically 60, yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, but when it comes down to it, like fundamentally, they're really similar speed games and how you like need to approach them to be successful. So
Mhm.
um yeah, they also have like a somewhat similar benchmark times. Like Red Ball, like the benchmark's kind of sub 3, though sub 3 in Red Ball I'd say is definitely harder than sub 5 in Super Mario Bros. But there's definitely like a lot more people who have sub 5 in Super Mario Bros. But
Mhm.
we kind of need to work on the I guess or the what beginner tutorial department of like teaching people how to play the game. I think that's probably true with most speed games. It's like you kind of have to like join the Discord and like get pretty integrated to really know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because like the main tutorial that people use to like uh learn Red Ball was like made by me back in 2021, and that's when record was had just become sub 3. So, and it's also just like a beginner's tutorial that teaches people how to get sub 4. So it we could definitely like have a better like just resource for teaching people like the steps they need to take to like actually get like really good at the game. So
Mhm. Yep. Just very interesting how I don't know that game operates with its correlation to Mario 1 and everything,
mm-hmm.
even though being so different.
Very different.
Very different, but very similar.
Indeed.
Just interesting. So, why are like I don't know about Red Ball 2 and 3. I assume they exist, but
They do,
we haven't
yeah.
really talked about them at all. What makes them so different compared to these two in terms of like wanting to optimize it?
That's when they started adding like a lot more puzzles into the game. So it was just basically more like a fleshed out casual experience, but it made the speed runs for the games like kind of unenjoyable
Mm.
because it's like you have to do all this stuff that's just like not fast.
Yeah.
But then like the whole pause jumping thing got discovered where you can just like fly over most of this stuff, and it definitely made the games a lot better as speed games for sure. Like Red Ball 2 specifically, like no one would be running that game if pause jumping didn't exist.
Mm.
So, but yeah, that game also has someone who's like way in the lead. That would be XTXbox Jaja. He has a 659, while second place is a 737.
Mm.
So
Much longer
yeah,
game.
it's a much longer game, but yeah, still someone who's in first place by a mile, where the top 5 is still like quite optimized. Like I
Hmm.
have like a 748.933. And fun tidbit about that game, there was a time where there was a 3-way tie for the world record
Really?
at exactly 7 minutes, 48 seconds, and 933 milliseconds.
How does that happen?
uh, I couldn't tell you. It's kind
Like
of
to the
insane that it
frame
actually to the frame,
on
to the
a
frame. Yep.
seven. The odds of that seem incredibly unlikely. Like that,
It's like, yeah,
you don't
it's
even see that kind of
wild.
ties in Mario 1 a lot. And
Yeah,
that it
no.
makes like a ton more sense to happen. Wow.
Yeah, it's still kind of hard to believe that like actually happened, but yep, 3 people had the record at some point. So, but now, yeah, now it's just Xbox being way better than everyone else because he poured in a ton of time into the game and pulled off like, you know, super like difficult strategies that were once like aisle only, and then he decided to just bring him over. So
Yeah.
that's how the cookie crumbles. But yeah, no, it's definitely a good speed game. And the one funny part about it as well is that in the second to last level in the game, if in like the full 25 levels, since there's like Red Ball 1, there's like a set of main levels and then 5 bonus levels, where if you add those on, that's like a separate category.
Hmm.
So there in Red Ball 2, there's 20 levels, which is like any percent, and 25 levels, which is like 100%.
Hmm.
And 25 levels, the second to last level in the game is you have to like input there's 3 buttons and they cycle through these like 5 symbols, and you have to like input this hidden like combination that you find later in the level, though. If you just know it beforehand, you can just punch it in.
Hmm.
But the symbols that the 3 buttons start out on are like randomized,
Oh.
so there's a 1 in 125 chance that the combination is just correct off the bat, and that's like a huge time save if you get it. Like, between the best and the worst combination, it's like, I don't know, it might be like 6-7 seconds of time save. It's like kind of crazy because
That
like to
seems like quite a big RNG swing out of nowhere.
yeah, that's like the only RNG present in the series are these freaking buttons in Red Ball 2,
Hmm.
which is pretty funny. But yeah, no, yeah, Red Ball 2 is definitely like a good speed game. It's just like because it's longer and it doesn't have as much wow factor as Red Ball, with like how fast you're able to go and all of that, and it not being as simple. It doesn't have as many runners. It only has like 78 in the 20 levels category.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, Red Ball 3 is honestly like pretty similar. I think it has a few more runners just because it's like definitely easier to learn. Yeah, it has 119 any percent runners. Um, but yeah, very similar. The game has a lot of puzzles that initially were skipped through like, like corner jumps and like various like, exploits that were found by this one guy named Jandog. But after pause jumping was found, which you, by the way, pause jumping, the reason it's called like pause jumping and not double jumping is because you have to hit pause and jump on the same frame. So like the
Mm.
game pauses, but you're still on the ground, but the jump goes through. So it like gives you force from the jump. And then while you're still holding jump, you unpause and then it like jumps again. So you get 2 jumps on the same frame.
Hmm.
But in Red Ball 2, you have to like delay the what is it, the you have to delay the pause menu press by 2 frames because jumps have like 2 frames of input lag essentially, so
Hmm.
it's slightly harder. But yeah, Red Ball 3 I'd say is like overall more optimized, like near the top of the leaderboard. But Xbox again is in first place in that game just because of how like similar it is. He's just good at both, and but he's only in first place only by like 3 seconds. So,
Hmm.
and it's a slightly shorter game as well. It's like 5 minutes. So yeah, the big minute barrier in that game was definitely the sub 5. So
Now I'm noticing a similarity.
yeah, yeah. For for I guess whatever reason, we've been fortunate in the fact that all these games have had like these really like the minute barriers have just like always fallen on like the cusp of what's possible, which is like, made it like pretty exciting when people like go for breaking them and stuff. So, because the record's like probably not gonna ever go much lower than that. And it's like I can say that now with more confidence now that we have like, we're able to task the game and people like have toiled over these tasks like collectively for dozens or hundreds of hours. And it's like, yeah, something new could be found, but the odds of it being something like substantial are like quite slim.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the task for that game is like a 425. So like sub 4 is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Like we know that. So
Yeah. Well, very interesting series of speedruns.
yeah, for sure.
It's nice to know what makes when you don't know much about something, it's nice to know what makes it what it is. Because I've always said like every game has something about it. I mean, that's why there's a leaderboard. There's just something very
Yeah.
unique to it.
Yeah.
It's interesting to learn what it is for whatever, even if you have nothing about it. You never played it, you had no fucking clue. Because
Yeah. I mean,
I hate
there's
being the
definitely a lot of
casual
people.
normie, like most
Yeah.
YouTube commenters are. Like, but how does this work? Like, it's not their fault if they don't know. It's their fault if they're an asshole about it. But it's like
True.
watching something being like, you're just like, oh, that was cool, but you have no idea why it was impressive. It's nice to know why. That's what interests me.
Yeah. And I definitely think that's where like my videos are able to come in and kind of like, explain what is going on and why the times being set are so impressive. And why they're worth talking about. And I've just been fortunate to have like so many good stories to dive into because it's like I don't know like how every game in this series ended up having such a good story, but that's just how it ended up happening. So definitely pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's definitely games outside of the outside of the Red Bull series that I've identified the same like charm in with like especially World's Hardest Game.
Mm-hmm.
That video ended up being like super successful, which was like really cool to see happen. Like it was like my first, I guess my second video that was like really successful. That wasn't about Red Ball. It wasn't in like my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I also had like a video that's become quite popular about like Happy Wheels,
Hmm.
which another huge Flash game
Yeah, that I
that
have a lot of time in back in the
yeah.
day.
But just like the demo of that game, there's just like one guy who named Dre who just like absolutely tore that category to shreds by himself. And it was just like a cool story to talk about. So eventually, like after that video dropped, like people decided to like, you know, put in like the effort that he did and like get good at it. But the record ended up going lower as it always does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he is back on top in that category. So yeah, definitely the like Happy Wheels category that's had the most like time put into it because like most of it like on the leaderboard is just all the mobile levels and all of the featured levels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of the Flash game. So
Yeah, because that's a very like community made thing. It's like running Mario Maker.
yeah, like that it would be kind of crazy if we let like people run any level in the game, like
Mm-hmm.
making a category every time that happened. We have like
Yeah.
a category extensions for that, but no one really cares about it. So
Mm-hmm.
thankfully there isn't people submitting like a million different runs.
Yeah, that'd be a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, it's good to have like a predefined set of levels. Like this is the ones that you should like focus on and get good at because otherwise I feel like people just like spread out their efforts into like I guess just like running as many levels as possible, which isn't like it's hard to keep track of.
Mm-hmm. So you said this popular thing is the demo?
Yeah, the demo. So there's like a demo for the game that had 10 of the levels like built in, and this was like a version of the game that other websites were allowed to host as
Mm,
opposed to like the original, which was only on the original website like Total Jerkface
mm-hmm.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So this demo was like possibly played by like more people than or like as much as the original game just because it was like that was the version of Happy Wheels that was allowed to just be like spread throughout the internet. So because it was like a predefined set of 10 levels you have to get good at,
Mm-hmm.
it had this like unique thing where you had to like instead of just getting one really good run of one of the levels, you had to get 10 good runs back to back. So that definitely gave it like a unique pull, and there's definitely been a good handful of people who have gotten quite good at it. So
Mm-hmm. So does it use in-game time? Because I know there's a timer.
no, it uses RTA because there's no like overall timer for the game. It's just the time of each individual level. But we've
Mm-hmm.
kind of decided that like how fast you menu should be a factor in your time. So
I guess.
yeah,
Yeah, but I assume ILs just use the in-game.
yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
always use the in-game timer.
All right, that makes sense then.
But we have like restrictions on it because if the game's running at like 10 FPS,
Hmm.
like the timer's gonna run 3 times slower or whatever. So we have like an FPS minimum that like you can't just like essentially play the game in slow motion. So
Yeah, that would not be ideal, I guess.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I assume a lot of Flash games can have like FPS BS about it. So is that all taken
Yeah.
into account?
Yeah, I mean like Flash is really dumb in the fact that like the frame times are super inconsistent. Like
Yeah, that's what it
especially
sounded
on
like.
bad computers. Like it'll just fluctuate so much. Um Thankfully on like the standalone player, it's like way less of an issue. But it's definitely like a thing in Red Ball. And it was actually a huge thing back when we played the original version of the game that there's like a glitch called spike glitch where if you pause and unpause the game, it makes it so spikes have to overlap themselves for 2 consecutive frames to be able to kill you. Like that's like their
Hmm.
effective hitbox. So if you're going fast enough, you like in theory shouldn't be able to get killed by the spikes because they just from one frame to the next they just don't overlap each other at all.
Hmm.
um but because of like inconsistent frame times, it would make it so the spikes would like if you had like a really long frame versus a really fast frame, it would cause the spikes to like overlap more or less, and it made it so the glitch was way less like consistent on bad computers. Like if you're on a bad
Hmm.
computer, like spike glitch barely works. And then it was also found out with like if you increase the game resolution, it'll make it more consistent because of like anti-aliasing, and
Hmm.
it's just all of this jank that was like really really bad for the game. So and it also had a problem where the amount that the screen scrolls was based on how long the previous frame took. So the game, if you look at like old recordings of Red Ball, the game will like judder back and forth while you're moving. It's like super.
Hmm.
Some people were like straight up getting like eye strain from looking at the game because of like how how bad like the judderiness would be. So like eventually we decided like the I guess the community decided that the I guess default system for like the screen scrolling needed to be fixed, and there was like a one line fix in the code you could do to make the amount the screen scrolls be based on like just 1 divided by 31 instead of like how many milliseconds previous frame took to render,
Hmm.
and that made it so the game became like super smooth. Spike glitch was completely deterministic, and people with like bad computers are on an equal playing field when speedrunning the game. So all like modern runs of the game are done on it's called deterministic patch with that like one line fix to um, improve the game. So
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah. But my like two when I got my 255, that was back when we didn't have that.
Mm.
So um
So it was
that's
more
another reason
impressive.
why I guess like
Yeah.
slightly in a way. But if you look at like the deterministic patch variable, it's like it's just all yeses until you get to my run, which is a no, and then you have to like keep scrolling a bunch more to like find the next run that didn't use it, that hasn't been improved. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's definitely like made running the game a lot better and made people more willing to like get good at it without having those two like major issues, the jitteriness and spike glitch being unfair and non-deterministic. So
Mhm. Yeah, it makes sense. It's nice when
yeah.
uh you can kind of edit a game to make it more speedrun accessible. Like Sunshine getting rid of the cutscene, so you don't have to
Yeah, just like
waste
there's really
6 minutes of your life before you can actually run.
there's really like small changes. Like with Sunshine, I'm pretty sure it was also like a one-line fix to like make those cutscenes skippable or whatever.
Yeah, and you just add the time the cutscenes would have taken, and it makes
Yeah,
perfect sense.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's like why not?
yeah,
Like such a good change in my opinion that they allowed that. But yeah, from time to time, it's like it's definitely the right thing to do, and especially with like I mean, it's definitely unique with Red Ball that we're like kind of like in touch with the developer and stuff, and
hmm.
he just like straight up gave us the source code for the game,
You
which
don't
was
get
pretty
that very
sick.
often.
Yeah, definitely not. So they're super cool with like the speedrunning stuff. So that's always cool. Like especially with my videos, like just the developers like pretty much always find the video and watch it and stuff. Like when I made the video about the run games, like the run developer saw it and he like joined the run speedrunning Discord, and now he just like uses the announcements channel for like announcements about like the actual game series, which is pretty
Hmm.
cool. And with the World's Hardest Game video, the developer, like I sent the video to the developer, and he like made a comment which I pinned, and he's just been running a Q&A like through that comment, like through the replies for like 11 months now. Like people would just ask him questions and he'll just like reply to them and stuff. So yeah, it's really cool to like have that kind of connection with like the developers and all of that.
Yeah, because for popular
And
games, you would never ever get that.
yeah, I don't think Miyamoto is gonna like pull up to the Mario speedrunning Discord and all of that and say how
Hmm.
proud of the speedrunners he is and how cool speedrunning is and all of that. Which
Although
you know
Miyamoto did watch Andrew G live
that
once,
is true. That is true.
so
Like he
it's
probably
got
does
that.
think that it's cool. He does think that it's cool. I'm sure, but
Yeah, I'm sure it's some other person that's trying to ban internet things or whatever, DMCA all the speedrunners.
exactly. But yeah, and then the world's hardest game developer, like he like put the video on his like personal website, like
Hmm.
under his resume and stuff, like showcasing like how like this is a thing that he did like back when he was 16, and like because the video talks about like
Hmm.
how the game came to be and some of the stuff that he did back in the day. So it's like a mini like biography about him. So he just threw it on his website and stuff, which is like super cool. Like this is some dude, like I'm sure like if like 8-year-old me like playing that game was told like, yeah, you're gonna like the developer of this game is gonna be like use your video as like an example of like how he like presents himself to other people, I would have been like, what?
What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, no, it's kind of wild. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool that you can have that kind of communication because yeah, again, most 99.99% of games aren't going to have that luxury, and you
no, yeah.
can almost like be a way to like improve, could like work together to improve both sides, speedrun aspect, game aspect.
Yeah, I know that's happened in the past.
Hmm.
I know with like Tetris specifically, it's not speedrunning, but I'd say it's pretty similar with how people approach like classic Tetris is like I know there's like one of the guys who was like one of the top players at the game was hired by the Tetris company to like put a classic score attack mode into like their Tetris like effect connected, which is like their
Mm,
newest game. So it's like they just like straight up hired like one of the top players to like help design this like game mode in their in their newest release and all of that. I think that's like super interesting that's like actually a thing that happens.
yeah, I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
It,
pretty
it's
cool.
I also find it interesting that I don't know much about Tetris, but I know like classic runners, it's always just the original, like, well, not original, but the NES official NES release. But there's so
Yeah,
many
yeah.
versions of Tetris.
Mhm. Yeah, the NES uh version of the game just has like this like really unique skill ceiling where I mean, first of all, the sky's the limit because of
Mm-hmm.
like um how the game works, but also just how like precise you have to be. Like with modern Tetris, you have like the hold box and the RNG is like you get like the batch of 7 pieces and then it's just randomized in that batch. So you're like you'll see every piece within like if you place it down, like you'll see it again in like 13 draws or whatever, guaranteed. Whereas with with NES Tetris, you could get like a 60-piece drought for like a long bar, and it's just you got to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's that, and then yeah, with placing pieces with modern Tetris, you can just like instant drop it, but NES Tetris, that's not a thing. And then also like essentially the second that a piece touches the stack, it like gets locked into place, and then it's down essentially. Whereas with like modern Tetris, you can like flip it around and move it after it touches the stack for like 3 seconds before it actually places.
Mm,
It's a lot more lenient in that regard. So yeah, there's just people who are drawn to how it originally was, and I definitely see the appeal for sure.
yeah. I guess I didn't realize how different it was to well, I guess to modern it makes sense, but I know there was like an unofficial release of Tetris on NES before like Nintendo got the right.
Yeah,
Their
yeah,
Game Boy was super popular. It's just interesting that up like Nintendo, the official Nintendo NES release is the like go-to popular one.
yeah.
I just
I
find
think
that interesting.
part of it was that it was at like the 1990 Nintendo World Championships as one of like
Ah, yeah.
the games that people played. So I think that like kind of helped cement it as like a competitive, game that like people could compete in some way. So
Yeah. Mario 1, Rad Racer, and Tetris. That was that one.
mhm.
I
Mhm.
have the Mario 1 world record on Nintendo World Championship 1990. There's my fun fact of the
Nice.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no one
Is
can collect
that where you have
50
to collect like
coins. Yeah.
50 coins or something? Yeah.
No one can collect 50 coins as fast as me.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, as it stands right now. I did that like 3 years ago too. But
I don't know.
uh,
Has Nifsky ever played that category?
I don't know. It took me like 10 minutes, so I'm not like claiming it's
Oh yeah.
insane.
Wait. Yeah. What leaderboard is that on?
There's a Nintendo World Championship 1990 like leaderboard, and so they
Oh,
have
okay.
like a
That
speed run
makes
of each
sense.
of the individual challenges. So there was the Super Mario Brothers one. I found it on a whim one day, and I was just like, "Oh, this seems easy," and it was. But yeah, it's just interesting that it exists. So it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know about that. That was like an actual leaderboard.
They have leaderboards for everything.
I'm sure everyone running that game legitimately owns that cartridge. It's like
Mm-hmm.
what, like 10 grand or whatever.
Yeah, I totally played it on the original cartridge.
Yeah, of course, of course.
It's not like I have a device that can just load any ROM and act like it's I have the normal game on it or anything. Which is funny to like even start, you have to have like a controller into the player 2 slot to be able to start it or there's something weird about it.
Oh yeah.
But so I would like unplug it to controller 2, push the button, plug it back into player 1, do it that way. So, yeah, I think at this point I don't have another controller. The other, like my super old ones, have long since broken. But
Wait, so
yeah,
you're running like one controller? That's
yeah,
all you got? And
I just got
I
this
hope it
one. Yeah,
lasts. Yeah,
yeah. I
that's
mean, so far so good. I mean, I'll clean it out and replace the rubbers inside like
yeah,
very
yeah,
frequently. But I mean, it's hard for everything else to wear out. Like you can just replace the bits and pieces. I don't think like the thing itself is going to go out anytime soon. As long as you keep it in tip-top
yeah.
shape, there's no reason for it to not work. So, and if it ever doesn't, pretty easy to just buy another one. So,
True.
it's nice that we can keep all this old technology preserved in some way. Just replace the bits inside and keep it going.
Yeah, I think I got like a 20 pack of NES rubbers for like 15 bucks on
Mm-hmm.
AliExpress because it's like the people were saying it's like, oh, this is like the exact same rubbers that we've been buying from these other vendors for like 10 times as much. So
Oh, well, you're gonna have to tell me about this because
I can slide you the link for sure.
yeah, yeah, because I was actually just about to buy more because I'm on my last set and they've been in there for a few months, which is longer than
Yeah.
usual. Starting to have some D-pad, like it's starting to register more diagonals that I don't want, so I can tell that,
Oh yeah.
that's
Yeah.
when it's starting to be done with, so I'll definitely be interested in that. Save some money on some rubbers.
Yeah, I think I'm like set for lifetime for sure.
I don't know, I
So,
replace mine like once a month.
yeah.
Well, if I'm playing any percent, it's once a month easily.
Yeah.
So
I think
depends.
Miniland has had the same rubbers for like 2 years somehow.
I don't know how
So
that
two,
works.
3 years. I don't know how that works either, but
Like I will have it, and I've like showed pictures before, but oh here, hold on, I have like one right here. So here's like a broken one. So it has the bit, this bit that pops up, and it'll be like ripped off of it. Oh yeah, this one is
yeah.
like the
Yeah.
God, it's yeah there. So it's like ripped here.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
This always happens to me. So that's why I have to keep replacing them. I need to just keep that, not throw that away, so I can use it as an example. Because
True,
that's what
true.
happens. But yeah, so that's my issue. But yeah. But yeah, I only have the one controller, so hopefully it lasts. So far, so good.
Yep, hope so.
It was a nice refurbished one I got a few years ago, so should be good. Should be good. All right. Any other speedrun highlights? I know we focused on like the same kind of series in Flash, but maybe there's some
Yeah, I
other
think
good
I went over
good
like
stuff.
most of the highlights there. I know there's like a cool thing I did like a few years ago where I was wanting to get like a sub 30 playing like all like 6 of the Red Ball Flash games in the like main series back to back. And that was like a cool just like a cool event, like getting that time under 30 minutes, which was like quite challenging at the time with the strategies that we had.
Mm-hmm.
But that 7:48 that I talked about earlier, that like record, like I was like the second person to get that time, and when I set that, it was like in the middle of uh actually, I don't think it was in the middle of like those attempts, like in one of the multi-game runs, but there was like a previous record I set in that game that was during a multi-game. So it was like definitely interesting setting a record in like one of the individual games during a multi-game. Like I definitely wasn't expecting that at all. Um, so yeah, it was cool to do that. And there was also the time I was able to get there's something called like the 12 out of 12 in Red Ball 4, which is because there's, I believe, yeah, there's 4 categories in Red Ball 4 Volume 1, which is any percent glitchless, 100% and low percent. Um and the volumes 2 and volumes 3 have those categories minus low percent because it's just like way less interesting of a category in those two games. Um, but like so that's 10 records total, and then there's the two multi-game records, which is the 3 volumes back to back any percent, and the 3 volumes back to back 100%. And
Mm.
there's also the three of them back to back any percent glitchless, but that didn't exist back then. So that was like essentially like the Red Ball 4 sweep, and I was able to like get that at 1.2 years ago. So that was like
Hmm.
super cool. I was able to put that together. Nowadays I have 0 out of
Hmm.
12, and I believe I forgot if Incredi was able to get the 12 out of 12 or not. I don't remember, but yeah, those records are way more optimized now. So I don't think that's ever gonna be like attainable for for me. Certainly not for me again, but
Yeah,
maybe
all that
someone will get
matters
it
is
at
it's
some point.
you've done it. So.
Yeah, I got it at one point.
Hmm.
That was almost the case with like sweeping all of the records in the Red Ball series. Like I got pretty close to that at one point, but
Mm.
I never quite got there. So
Jeez.
got close like 3 times, but never put it together. And
S-
now it's definitely never happening. Like
Of
there's
course.
no way. There's absolutely no way.
Yeah.
Like
Unfortunately, they're
every
too
single record.
popular now.
Yeah, they're all like there's no record you can just point at and be like, yeah, that one's like really beatable.
Hmm.
They're all like super good because there's been at least one person has been like, yeah, like let's pour in 10, 20,000 attempts into this.
Hmm.
So
Yep. That's how it goes in
that's how the
speedrunning.
cookie crumbles, I guess.
Hmm.
So, and then another highlight was definitely just going to like Pace and ESA this summer because
Oh
those
yeah.
are, those are the first in person speedrunning events I'd ever been to,
Hmm.
and they both went like extremely well. Like I had a great time at both. So Pace, I wasn't like running anything, but just being able to hang out with everyone was awesome. And ESA, I was involved in like 3 different showcase runs, and they all went extremely well.
Hmm.
So it was cool to have that like opportunity. And then at that event, I was able to play a bunch of Fireboy and Water Girl, which was one of the showcase runs I was involved with. It was a co-op run with someone named HS Blue, who currently has the record in World's Hardest, or had the record in World's Hardest game recently. I think someone else took it back, but we got like the IL leaderboard sweep in that game, which was like really sick to put together. Just like pushing like every level to like peak optimization and going like a few seconds beyond like the records in some of those levels as well. So cool putting that together. And then we also got like fourth fourth place in the co-op category, which I wasn't expecting at all. And yeah, it was just really cool what we were able to accomplish in like less than a week while we had like so much other stuff going on. And like part of like the funny thing about how that came together is that when we were recording like the showcase or the submission for the showcase run, we had to like he lives in Australia, so we had to play with like Parsec, which allows you to like control the other person's computer with your
Hmm.
keyboard. And him being on the opposite side of the world, I there was like a quarter of a second of input delay for whoever was like remoting in,
Hmm.
which was interesting to play with for sure. But I was able to like handle it better, so I ended up like being the one who was playing with a ton of input delay. And because the game's like pretty simple and it's like kind of like fixed speed, you can't really um unless you're like getting boosts off of there's like I guess like different pools of like either like I guess lava or water that there's like little slopes you can get boosts off of, like The other than that, like the game is like pretty simple in how you can just like approach it. So we were able to do pretty well. We got like a 20-minute time despite like the handicap, which was like top 10, I'm pretty sure. uh and then, after we met in person, we obviously got like way better super fast. So it's
Hmm.
cool to be able to do that for sure.
Yeah. What did you get into ESA?
I got in Toxic 2, which I talked about earlier. We got in Fireboy and Water Girl co-op, which during that run we actually set a PB,
Hmm.
even though we had been doing runs that day. So it was like super hype. We PB'd by around a minute, which
Damn.
which was kind of sick to do like on the marathon stream. And then I was also commentating HS Blues World's Hardest Game Run. And
Mm.
that went like super well. He got like 30 seconds off record, which that's like a super inconsistent game. So that was way better than anything we'd gotten like in practice, like while preparing. So yeah, hats off to him for sure.
So they had like a flash game block.
They weren't all together, no.
Oh, okay.
They were kind of spaced out.
Got it. Yeah,
But
usually
yeah,
stuff like that's kind of grouped together. Well, in GDQ at least. Which now that I think about it,
yeah,
GDQ doesn't have flash games.
Yeah, GDQ has had like 3 or 4 flash games ever, so
Hmm.
yeah, it's not very common. And they're usually in like I think 1 or 2 of them were in like the, crappy games block or whatever. So, yeah,
I
maybe
love the
one
crappy
day
games block.
we could get some like good like optimized flash game runs into GDQ. I'd say the best flash game GDQ run is like it was like Super Fancy Pants Adventure by I Have Newt. Like even though it's like not like seen as a flash game, it is technically a
Hmm.
flash game like behind the hood. So getting something of like that caliber on the GDQ stage would definitely be cool, but I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully one day.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of people that are interested in flash game speedruns, so there's no reason for it
Yeah,
not to
for
be.
sure.
And
Yeah, a lot of it is just shedding like there's just a lot of people who I probably still have the thought in their head that like, oh, like flash games, like there's the speed runs probably aren't like that serious or all of that. So
I'm sure a lot of them aren't, but there are
and
the
yeah, that
ones
is
that
true. A lot of
are
them
like
aren't,
really
but
are.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you get so much variance with again, there's so many games, so and a lot of
Yeah.
them are garbage, but those that aren't, they seem to make great speedruns most of
hmm
the time. So that's
Yeah.
always
I mean,
good.
there is a time back in the day, like before Elo bought speedrun.com, where they just like wouldn't accept flash games onto the site anymore. Like people
Mm,
would submit them and just say like we're not currently accepting flash games at this time. And that would like that made me like super upset that like they were doing
really.
that. Eventually they did like loosen up on that a bit, but um yeah, nowadays I feel like they're probably too loose on what games they allow on the site, to be honest. Like I feel like I'll click on like the all games tab every once in a while, and something will be on there. It's just like, what is this? Just some
Well, I
like,
I like being able to submit whatever you want to it because well, I wanted to submit there was that two-player ROM hack of Mario 1 where you play at the same time.
yeah, yeah,
And it took me 3 times before they finally accepted that. Even though there
hmm
were like plenty of runners and I like had this catalog because they kept thinking it was just co-op Mario 1 like and
oh,
I was like no, it's
nope,
different.
yeah,
And it was a hard process. So I'm glad they've loosened up on that personally,
yeah.
but yeah, that's just me.
It's just like it's not like that bad. Like I say, like the vast majority of the games on the site, like obviously glad that they're there, but there's just a
Hmm.
few. It's like Among Us clicker and stuff like that. It's like this isn't even like you're not even speed running this game. Like this is literally like a high score leaderboard and
Hey,
stuff like that. It's
Subway
just like
Surfers is like was the most popular game for a while, and that was how long can you last? It was literally the opposite of a speed run.
yeah,
So
yeah, true. Though I mean, I'm definitely fine with like Subway Surfers on the site. Like I think that was a funny era.
I guess it was fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
know like Another like interesting tidbit about like my speedrun journey is that like through all the games that I mod, I'm like top 10 in the most like runs verified on the site.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, I've definitely put in a lot of work into like maintaining leaderboards, obviously, because I like things being like neat and like handled properly and run well and all of that. So
hmm
um, a lot of those runs were like submitted automatically from like having like a script that would like move runs between leaderboards if we were like moving a category, because speedrun.com still does not have the ability to like, oh, if I want to move a category from like category extensions to the main leaderboard, you just gotta like do it all manually unless you like,
hmm
have a script that does it. So
Oh,
yeah, some of them are,
I've had to
yeah,
deal with that
automatic.
shit
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Mario
I'm
1, where
sure
there's so
a
many.
lot of communities have. Yep.
Took many hours to separate NTSC and PAL finally. That's why no one did it until I did it.
Yeah, yeah, I heard about that. It's definitely a good thing that that got split up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's like a Discord that keeps track of like all these like, world record leaderboards and, runs leaderboards and all of that. Because like Speedrun.com used to have the like global leaderboards where you could see that stuff, like who has the most world
Mm-hmm.
records and who's run the most games and stuff like that. And then they got rid of it because it
They
was
got
like
rid of
slowing
that?
down the,
Oh.
yeah, they did, because it was like slowing down the site,
Oh,
which is fair, like,
I guess.
but yeah, they're able to just with the API be able to pull all that information and more. And yeah, the verified leaderboard, like with my automatic submissions, I'm at like 14,000, which is number 6,
Hmm.
and number 1 like is DHA. So like, not only is he like one of the best flash game runners, he's also like, has the most runs verified on the website.
Hmm.
And a lot of that was from Subway Surfers, because he was like the main mod that was like actually doing stuff when it was like at its craziest. But
Hmm.
he's at 42,000 runs verified, which is like insane.
Yeah, I can't do that. I've probably verified like 100 Mario 1 runs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of the runs that he verifies are like really easy to like. I mean, like I know it as well. Like if it's just like an IL run that with an in-game timer, you just like check if the in-game time's correct, and it's like, yep, verify. But yeah, Mario 1, you have more involved. Like, is this 60.1?
Hmm.
Did he use an emulator? Is this a task playback?
Nowadays, I just verify people I know are legit. And
Yeah.
because I know they know how to retime, I know they didn't cheat, so I'm just like, oh, hey, verify. That's it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Shout
it
outs
just
to
takes too much time.
sumwest.com.
Oh my god,
Definitely a
yes.
great tool. I still use this like retime tool that some guy named Slush Puppy made. That's just like, you copy the debug time from the YouTube video, or the debug info from the YouTube video, and you like select the starting frame with it's like comma and period,
Hmm.
and the ending frame as well. So like it's like it gets the job done on YouTube stuff, but whenever it's like a Twitch highlight or um, anything like that, or a local video, like I'll use, sumwest.com.
Hmm. Love that
Definitely
site.
good. Yep.
It's been a lifesaver for me in the frame counting business because
Yeah.
I've had some issues with that, but that seems to be the most reliable for me, especially since I local record everything and I can just put my
Hmm.
local recording on there and find it easily that way, and it'll immediately tell me the frame. It immediately has the frame rate difference, and I can just plug that in. All
Yeah.
super helpful.
When like YouTube retiming became common, it's actually like crazy how much of an impact it had on the website, because before then, like there were so many runs that was just the time was like what live split said
Mm.
on like the manual split. Like that was just common. That's what, I feel like most runs were like that had milliseconds and weren't like super established. But then once like YouTube retiming came in, now everything is like actually retime correctly to the frame, which is definitely nice for me. Like I'm super glad that like leaderboards are accurate in that regard.
Yeah, it's good. But yeah, running out of things to ask. I know we're getting to the point where you needed to head out anyway,
Yeah.
so we can
Mm-hmm.
kind of wrap up a bit. But I don't know. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to talk about?
Um, I guess one like thing I have coming up is that there's like this huge update for Geometry Dash that's on the horizon 2.2 that people have been waiting for like 6 years. And that's gonna add platforming levels to the game that people will be able to like time and speedrun and all of that.
Mm,
So if all of that gets like tracked on speedrunner.com, which it might be, like that's gonna be a whirlwind, absolute whirlwind of work to be able to do. Like
yeah,
just there, because that game is like enormous, and like if everyone's just like flocking to that leaderboard with like their speedruns of their 2.2 levels, it's gonna be like, yeah. I'm really hoping it pans out fine, but yeah,
yeah,
our mod team is definitely not big enough right now to handle what might be coming. So
yeah,
because we have like 4 mods.
yeah.
So
Geometry Dash is another thing I don't know too much about. I just know like people make really hard levels for it, and then you try to be the first to complete it. That's like my knowledge of it.
yeah, it's uh yeah, the things that people do in that game are like insane. Like just if you like count the frame perfects, it's like, oh, this is like frame perfect base. Like I know it's like one button, but like that's way beyond anything we've done in speedrunning. That's like kind of insane.
Yeah,
Uh there's definitely a lot of that. But yeah, I mean the speedruns are like most of the categories are pretty dumb, but um there are like, you know, the I guess the main two categories that like aren't dumb are 1 through 21, which is like all the main levels, and 5 demons, which is like you pick 5 like demon rated levels, which is like the highest rating. There's sub ratings under that, but it's like the highest main rating. And you have to complete like 5 levels back to back. So there are like lots of
hmm.
levels of like differing lengths, and there's lots of like really short levels that are super hard. So it's like you have to like pick and choose like what 5 levels you think you'll be able to like complete back to back without dying and all of that. And there's like
Hmm.
always new like harder levels you can add for the most part. Like no one, I don't think anyone's done a run with like the 5 shortest levels because like it's just like too difficult to do so. But
Yeah.
there's that, and then 1 through 21 is interesting because there's like speed skips you can do in some of the levels that are super difficult. Like, you know, 120, there's one of them requires like a 120 FPS frame perfect or whatever. It's like
Mm,
and so it's like kind of like how you route playing those levels. You have to like get a certain amount of coins before you go to some of the levels and all that, and just being able to like sit down and play perfectly for like 30 minutes is not easy. So
hmm.
yeah, those are definitely the two most interesting categories now. But yeah, once that update drops, I don't know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens. I'm bracing for impact. So
Brace for impact. Yep. All right. Well, so you got any future plans, whether it's speedrunning, content creation, anything like that?
yep, just gonna keep, you know, making videos for this foreseeable future, you know, one every like 2 3 months. I have a lot of ideas in the pipeline, so definitely don't see myself stopping that anytime soon. And in terms of like actually speedrunning stuff, I don't really know what exactly my next steps are going to be with that, but probably improving my time in red ball, because I would like to get, you know, a 3x one day in that category. Get
Mm.
somewhat close to record. Don't plan on ever getting record back, but
AX
so
alone
it
sounds
would
like
take too
hell,
much time.
from what I've
But
heard. So,
yeah. But yeah, really hoping I can, you know, at least improve that 255 at some point. So
hmm.
yeah, that's what's next.
There you go. Well, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask now. And in the meantime, you can do the lovely thing called self promotion.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So,
I'll do
I
this.
mean, yeah, I have a Twitch channel, which is its maximum. I don't really stream very often.
There we
My
go.
last streams were I think Super Mario Bros. So I did a few streams of that over the summer, but yeah, not too much going on over there these days. I am always hoping to get back into it, but we'll see what's next there. But I have hosted like some special events there with like we've done like Red Ball Break the Records and stuff like that.
Mm,
So
cool.
um, hopefully can host something like that again as well because definitely enjoy doing those.
Yeah.
And then of course I have my YouTube channel, which is just at maximum. If you type that in the search bar, it should show up. So I have the handle, which is nice. And yeah, I you can also just type in like Red Ball speedrun, and my videos will show up for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely give them a watch if you feel like it. And yeah, I mean that's about it.
And all that information is on stream and in YouTube description to make it easy. So always
Yep.
that. We do have a question of what games you want to cover in the future on your channel.
Definitely like gonna be circling back to some games I've already covered. I can just pull up the top secret video idea spreadsheet. Um, you know how it
Ooh, the
is.
leak.
The leak, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I want to obviously make an update to like Red Ball World Record progression stuff. Maybe make a world record progression about Run 2, because there's like a whole thing about like getting people have gotten like really close to getting every record in that game, like all 38 of them. So it'll be really cool if someone's able to like actually do that. Um, a video about like maybe the World's Hardest Game sequels, because there's a whole thing where people have gotten back when I made my World's Hardest Game video. Yeah, there's 4 games in the series, and the first game was the only game in the series that had been ever completed deathless. So that gives you like a scale for like how much harder the other games in the series are. But like after I released that, I put like a bounty on a deathless World's Hardest Game 2 record, and someone was able to pull that off. And I'm pretty sure World's Hardest Game, it was either 3 or 4 got completed deathless. So there's only like one more game that needs to be completed deathless for the whole series to be perfected in that regard. So,
I didn't even know there were that many World's Hardest Games.
yep, yep,
I've learned so much today.
yep.
Well, thank you for teaching me the ways of Flash speedrunning. Yes, very interesting stuff. So
Yeah, of course. Thanks for
appreciate it.
having me on.
Yeah, no problem. And so go ahead and end things off here. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to follow if you enjoyed. Sub to the YouTube. Watch them live here. I should try to find a way to, now that Twitch doesn't limit you to just streaming there, you can like co-stream on YouTube. I should
True,
try to
true.
figure out a way to do that. That'd be pretty cool. So maybe look forward to that in the future. But until then, I stream these live on Twitch only right now, and YouTube video will be up shortly later today. Hopefully, I can get that all processed. The last couple times I did it, I had some issues, so let's hope that doesn't happen. And yeah, with that, I think we can call it a day. So thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day. See ya.
See y'all.